Welcome back, everyone, to another week of Level 2 workshop. So this will be our second week on multiplayer games, and today we'll only be working on the code because there's really not much new concept we need to learn today. So we're gonna go straight into programming. Um, we plan to cover about two things today. First one is to make it such that the ball, after it reaches um, any part of the edges of the map on either the left or the right edge, it will respawn back to the middle, and it will restart the countdown. So that's the first thing. So we want to work on this particular respawn system for the ball. And the second one is uh, I want to work on tallying the scores on each side for the player. So there are two things we want to work on now. So without further ado, I think we can try to get started here. So the first thing is on the ball. So we want the ball to respawn when it touches either the left or the right side of the wall. So let's open up our code for our ball. Let's open up this for our ball. So there are two things we need to figure out. There are two things we need to figure out. The first one is, how do I know I'm on either the left or the right edge? So we can use any kind of built-in Unity physics methods to do this. It could either be on collision enter or on it could be either on collision enter or on trigger enter. So for simplicity's sake, we're just going to use this on collision enter. Okay, we're just gonna use this on collision enter, but we're going to we're going to first give the side walls, the wall 2 and wall 3 here, which would be either left or right. We're gonna tag this with a new tag. Let's call this the score. Let's just call this the score zone. Let's just save the tag as score zone, and then we put this onto wall 2 and wall 3, which is the left and the right wall. So just as how you would do it in a single player game, since this is a mono behavior method, all you need to do is to check if I have collided into the collided into the score zone, right? So if I collided into score zone, okay, I'll do an early return here. So I'll set my rigid body dot velocity to equals vector 3.0. So I want it to stop when I go to the when I get to the score zone. So I want to stop as I get to the score zone. There's what I want to do. And once I stop, I also want to launch the ball back to its original location. So I'm going to need to move this. Okay, move this to 0 again. So we move this back to the origin. Okay. Okay, we move this back to the origin. So once we move it back to the origin, we're going to restart the coroutine, which is the launch countdown coroutine. Okay, we're gonna restart this coroutine. So we're going to restart this coroutine so that it will, again, it will just send the ball back and then send the ball back to launch. So let's just save this scene and let's get started here. So before we start, make sure you go to multiplayer, play mode, and turn on the second player so that we can test everything that is working. Oops. Okay, the second player should be active now. So let's make sure that the ball respawn time is set to something lower so that we can see that this code is indeed working. So let's try to run this code first. And we have host client, so let's start a host. And as you can see, this goes to left, and then as it hits one side of the wall, it goes back to middle. Okay, and then yeah, this is exactly what we want to do. But now, if I go onto the second player and I click on client to join, what you're going to notice is that once the ball hits the side of the wall, okay, on the client, it will teleport back on like a lerping motion. It doesn't teleport back, it just slides back to the origin. So this is because to ensure the smoothness of this ball on the client side, the network transform has this thing called interpolate. So as you interpolate this this network transform, what it's going to do is that it's going to make sure that the movement is smooth. If you ever want to actually have a teleport motion like we want to here in the ball, you either have to turn off interpolate, which when the latency is high is going to cause it to look very jaggy. Let's just do a quick example here. You can see that the ball is very jaggy on the client. So this is probably not what you want. So in most cases, instead of closing interpolate, you need to use this method. Okay, you need to use this method called teleport. That should be available inside of the network transform component. So because of that, you also need to get yourself the network transform component reference inside of your ball. So the network transform should be get component network transform, which now when I refer to the network transform, I have this method called teleport, which allows me to quite basically teleport to this position. Okay, which basically just lets me teleport back to the original, to the point 0, and it doesn't interpolate it. So it doesn't go back smoothly on the client's end. We can take a look at this to see that this is working. So on the client side, the ball moves smoothly. Normally it moves very smoothly, yes. So this is the effect, and now as it hits the wall, you can see that it immediately teleports back. So the problem now actually is that once I hit the wall, because of certain latency on the client, you actually don't see it hitting the wall because of the latency. So you can try to mitigate this by adding a small delay before when it stops and when it teleports back, so that it tricks the client into thinking that the latency is not there. Or you try to fix this latency by going into Unity netcode and try to fix it, but that is usually too much effort. So since latency is unavoidable, the best we could do is to try to work around it by making sure that your client doesn't feel this latency. Okay. God damn it. Okay, so that is one way to do things. That is one way to do things. So after you get to this point, we now need to add somewhat of a scoring system. So we need to add some kind of a scoring system to this. Okay. So how does the scoring system work? So when I'm on the left, when the ball goes to the left side, this means that the player on the left lost the ball. So the player on the right should get 1 point. That's how a classic Pong game should work. So we want to try to replicate this. And how we can do this is, again, we try to store the scores for each player separately. Okay, we try to store the score for each player separately. And this can be done. Okay, this can be done with some kind of a score manager. So this can be done with some kind of score manager. So we're just going to create an empty thing here, an empty object. We're just going to call this the score manager. Okay, let's put the transform back to 0, 0, 0. So what the score manager does is that it's going to manage over the score for both players. Okay, it's going to manage over the score for both players, such that if player 1 scores, the player 1 score increases, and if player 2 scores, the player 2 score increases, and vice versa. So what we can do with this, okay, is first we create a new script. Okay, we create a new script. Let's just call this a score manager. So should this score manager be a mono behavior or a network behavior? One of the ways that we can try to determine this is to know if this score manager needs to sync any kind of data across the network. Does the score manager need to sync any kind of data across the network? The answer is yes, because if we don't sync the scores, how are the other players supposed to know if the score has increased or decreased? So because we need to sync data, then this must be a network behavior. Okay, this must be a network behavior. Okay. So if this is a network behavior, then we also need to know what is the how do we calculate this score. So this comes into a very interesting topic here. Okay, this comes into a very interesting topic here, which is that how do we update it? So we probably want the score to be stored on the host. Then it means that the client will not have direct access to this score. Okay, we probably want this instead of both players having their score and then they try to communicate directly with this score. So it's always better to store these kinds of more critical things on the host side instead of storing it distributed, because it makes it easier to manage and there's lower risk of your players cheating by editing the score itself. So to get things started, we're going to just start with a private integer called player 1 score, okay, and a player 2 score. Okay, so there's player 1 score and player 2 score. Okay, then let's try to hook this up. So we're going to add a public. We're going to add a public. We're going to just add a yeah, I think we just do a public void add score and int player ID int. So this adds 1 score to that particular player ID. So we say if player ID, okay, equals 0, mplayer1 score plus plus. Okay, else mplayer2 score plus plus. So now you just need to assign this somewhere. So to this wall, we're going to add a new motor behavior script. Let's just call this the score zone. Let's just call this the score zone. And since the score zone doesn't really need to sync any data across the client, we just put it as a motor behavior. Okay, we just put it as a motor behavior. Let me think about this. Okay, I probably want the score zone to disable itself if it's not on the server, but I could just do this in the mono behavior. So on the start, I'm just going to call network manager dot singleton dot dot current session owner. Wait. Dot sorry, let me take a look. Should be a is owner somewhere. Is host. Is server. Okay. So if I am on the server, okay, if I'm on the server, if I am not on the server, I'm just going to disable this. So this means that if I'm not on the server, I will not run the score zone logic. And this makes it such that we won't have duplicate logics for the score zone. Remember, only the server should update the score because it is more authoritative that way. So what we're going to do here is we store a serialized field, which is just going to be an integer to the m scoring player ID. So as on collision enter 2D, so as the no, okay, I don't need this. So I would just add a public void on collision, on ball collision. Okay, as the ball collides on this, we're going to add the score. So I'm also going to need a reference to my score manager here. So I will be able to call the score manager dot add score with this player scoring ID. Okay, so this means that now I have this logic properly, and inside of my ball, as I do this, I also need to add the scoring. So I'm just going to say collision.gameObject.set get collision.getComponent, no, GameObject.getComponent. So I just need to get the component of score zone, and then I call the on-ball collision method here. And I think we can, yeah, I think we just put this here. So now that as my ball collide, I can update the score. I just need to assign these two score zone to my wall component here. So let's just do that. And for wall 2, I'm going to put scoring player ID to 1, and then wall 3 to 0. And then I drag the spawn manager in, the score manager in. Okay, sorry, the score manager doesn't have the script as well. So let's apply the script to the score manager and then drag this into the score manager. So it's as simple as that. now I have a somewhat working scoring system. So let's try to make sure that this works by adding a debug statement here, debug.log. So let's try to log the player 1 and player 2 score. So I'm just going to do this player 1 score. Okay. Player 1 score is equals to m player 1 score. And we do the same here. We do the same here. So this means that as I score, I will be able to see the score being printed out to the console. Okay, sorry, the multiplayer play mode client isn't working properly. So I call the host here and I call the client here. So as you can see, on my host, I do see my score being incremented here, and let's just make sure that this works on the other end as well to see that I am not coping. So as you can see, my player 1 and my player 2 score gets incremented properly. But on this end, on my client, on this connected client, I don't actually see this change. The reason why I don't see this change, even though the score manager is also running here, is because these variables are not synced. So in order to make these variables to be synced, I need to use this special class called a network variable that takes in any type that will automatically sync this variable across the web for me. So what I'm going to do is that on player 1 score, okay, when you have a network variable, you always need to instantiate it at the very start of the field. This must be instantiated before the network is initialized. This is a restriction of the network variable. So we're just going to instantiate both scores to 0. And then instead of doing this, you must now use a dot value to access the value inside of this variable. Okay. And we're also going to add a private callback that is going to help us print score for a particular player, which is just going to be print score player ID. And we're just gonna do the same thing. If player ID equals 0, we're just going to debug.log the player 1 score here. And we're just gonna do this the same here. So now, as I do it properly, I should be able to get this done. So here I'm going to do a public override for the on network spawn, so that I can add a callback to print score. So I'm going to say when my player score value is updated. Okay, when my player score value is updated, I want to add a listener to print score with player 1 score. I want to add a print score to player 1 score, And the thing about this on value changed is that on value changed is a delegate that takes in two arguments, I think, which is the previous value and the current value. So this would be like old and new, I think, if what I'm thinking is correct. So I'm just going to temporarily put them as XY. And let's also do the same for player 2 score, which prints the thing for player 2, which is ID of player, which is ID of 1. So what this does is that it makes us print the value across all clients as this score update is being synced. So as I go back to my Unity, you will see that this is the case. As I press play and I go to player 2, I click on host here. Oh, sorry. Let's press play. Click on host and I click on clients. What you're going to see now is that as this hits, ooh, hang on, it's not debugging properly. Sorry, let me take a look at the code. The ball just went through the wall.
Like it's like non-referencing. It's like oh wait, oh this is a good. I'm not so sure whether they did again. So I'm trying melting it that will go to the other markers. See whether it's actually oh man. Yeah,
that's because you didn't put the score manager in the score zone.
oh right.
There's no reference to the score manager.
Oh makes sense. Right.
That's weird, it didn't print the score. Well, when it's supposed to. Okay, let me just print the.
Oh.
Do you add it to both the walls? Do you add it to both the
Yeah,
walls?
I think I did edit for the other one.
Still not
I
working.
edit both. Yeah, I did really. Hey, oh no 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 no. Yeah, wait, I thought I did it.
Table. You must add one side to table.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, let's try to debug this first. Theory they should add properly. It's just the callback that is somehow not calling.
Mm.
Why is the callback not working? It's one. Ah, okay. The one score worked. Ah, okay, this should be plus. Why did I write minus there? It's trying to unsub. Okay, so this should work. So what's going to happen here is now, as I press play, okay, as I press play, let's press play. Let's press play and I go to host and I go to client here. What you're going to see is that as this debug prints, the client will also print its debug statement. This means that my variable has been successfully synced. So this is now a synced variable, or a network variable. So now I just need to hook this up to updating the UI text. I just need to hook this up to updating the UI text. Okay. So first I need to generate the UI. So let us create a UI for text Mesh Pro. Okay, let's import the TMP essentials again. And inside of my text, I'll have player 1 text. Okay, and let's also create a second one for player 2 text. So, in my canvas, let's very quickly let it scale with screen size, and let's assign a reference to it, and let's try to make this canvas look a bit easier to look at. So let's just put a placeholder value of like 1,000 to both scores. Okay, let's rename it to score instead. Okay, so let's also increase the size of the font to something like 56 maybe. Yeah, 56 looks good. And let's also make it centered in the middle. And now let's try to put this up onto the screen position. Sorry. Let's put this, okay, somewhere in -730 looks good. And let's put this at the top. 430 looks good. So let's do the exact same here, 730 and 430. So now we have the player 1 score and the player 2 score. So in Score Manager, it's just very simply now, okay, I am going to add a reference. Okay, I'm going to add a reference using Unity Engine here. I'm going to add a reference to the player 1 score text and the player 2 score text. So here, as my value is changed, I'm just going to do a mPlayer 1 score text dot text equals x dot toString, and the same thing here. Which is also equals to x dot toString. X should be the old value. Let's take a look. Okay, x is the previous value, so this should be y dot toString. Okay, so let's just make this easier to read. Okay, old val, and we're just going to put this to val. Okay, so now player 1 and player 2 should be updated accordingly as I set this reference to this TMP text system inside of my score manager. So let's put this to player 1 and let's put this to player 2. So now let's put the placeholder value back to 0 so that this gets initialized to 0. And as I go to my player 2 screen, as I press play, okay, I join this as host, I join this as client. Let us set the aspect ratio. And as you can see now, my scoring works just fine. Okay, my scoring works just fine. And it goes on both sides. So yeah, this means that my game is working properly. So now let's try to just polish this a little bit. So the ball gets sent to the side that lost the point in the last turn. Okay, let's make it such that the ball gets sent to the side that lost the point in the last turn. So what I'm going to do here is to go to the ball. I'm gonna go to the ball. Okay. And let's try to change this launch ball algorithm. Okay, so let's try to change this launch ball. So let's make this take in a launch to player ID. So if it launched to player 0, it's gonna go left. If it launched to player 1, it's gonna go right. So since we already know that this is launched left, now I need to know where to launch to go to right. So here, to go to right, the angle should be somewhere between 45 to -45. So let us try to math this out. We are just going to okay, this is the float angle. So if I am on launch to player ID is equals to 0, okay, then I launch it to the left, else I launch it to the right, which is -45f to 45f. Now I need to work on this. So as I launch the ball, I should also have this as well inside of my coroutine so that I can pass it inside as an argument. So here I'm just going to do a random.range from 0 to 1. Notice that how if you use an integer, the maximum is exclusive, so you should put 0 to 2, which is going to generate as 0 to 1. Then here, as I get this, I need to know which player it is. Okay, if I need to know which player it is. So I'm going to make this scoring player ID a public integer. Okay, which should have a private set for a public here. Okay, which is now we change this up. So now I should be able to access this variable inside of my ball. So here, okay, I am just going to add a very simple logic. So I'm just going to add an int send to player here, and I'm just going to put let us cache this. So var score zone equals this. Let's cache this, and then we do a score zone equals on score zone dot collision. then this would become score zone dot scoring player ID equals 0. So if 0 is the one scoring it, if not, I'd put this to 1. Else I put this to 0, then I just send to player. So here, I should be able to handle this case. I should be able to handle this case where I want to spawn the ball in a separate direction. So let's try this out. I'm going to press on play. And I'm going to click on host client. Okay, it sends to the left. So if this scores, this should go to the right. Does it go to the right? It's not supposed to go to the right. Okay, it's not supposed to go to the right. So if left scores, it's supposed to go to the okay, yeah, so if 0 scored, no, if left scored, it should go to the right. Yeah, correct. Is there something wrong here? Launch to player 0, I go left, if not I go right. So this looks correct. Scoring player ID. Score to 0, I send to... If the scoring player is 0. Yeah, that's weird. Sorry, let me take a look. If the scoring player is 0, I go to the direction 1. If not, I go to 0. And when I go to direction 1, I spawn it on the right. That's very weird. Let me take a look. Ah, okay. The reason is because now that scoring player ID is a property. It doesn't get serialized properly here if I make it as a private set. Okay, it's a property. It doesn't get serialized properly. So instead of using this as a property, I'm just gonna keep this as a variable. Damn. As a public variable, so now I can assign the scoring player ID correctly. Sorry. It should be wall 3. The one on the right should be 0, and the one on the left should be 1. Sorry. Excuse me. So now as I press play, and I click on host, I click on client, you're gonna see this gets launched to the left. If this hits left, it's gonna go to the left. And if I block here, and this goes to the right, okay, the ball will now spawn and shoot towards the right. So this is exactly as how I expected it to be. So this is good. So now we essentially have made it possible for us to sync the score system across. And now we are essentially able to play the game. I mean, this is pretty much functional. So I think this would be a very good place to end today's session. Any questions so far? Okay, the ball code, yes, no problem. This is the ball code. The on-collision entity.
We, you will be able to define the center player.
Center player for
Okay, because no, majority wants to play.
yeah. So you take this in.
Oh,
So,
right. So it's also not equal because I stop some stuff.
It's basically the same as the M scoring player ID. I just make it as a public variable. So then I need to change the coding style.
Oh,
I need to change the name to fulfill the coding style.
right. X equals oh, you remove the 513.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. How do you like give you the code again?
Sorry, what was it?
Hmm?
Sorry, what was it?
Wait, I think I found one. And then how do you affect the scores and I mean basically the TMP text you can the script.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, you don't need to attach the script.
You just no, you don't need to attach the script. It's all inside the score manager.
Oh,
So it's always better to handle the network logic as few passes as possible.
right. So let me just try that.
Ideally, you probably want to put you probably want to put like this part of the code somewhere.
Wait, now I got it. Score manager on network score. Maybe score manager. What am I doing? 70. Wait, I'm pretty sure. Oh wait, I think you made some changes on it.
What is it, right? This, the second.
Oh,
So on text.
yeah, I realized you.
It's not text. We have the score zones.
Oh,
Score zones. Yeah, you didn't add the score text.
right.
After
I think it's very good. Couldn't catch up.
this is me.
This is 1000. I'm just gonna test it out first. Okay. Oh. Oh, okay. I see. Because you start with the value or the default text 1000, then after that,
Yeah,
you just
so
use
you
it.
should switch the default text.
Wait. Wait a minute, it's going the wrong way.
What do you
Oh, I
mean?
think because I just now you fixed the error, but then okay, because I'm by right. Wait, it's supposed it is working. Wait, is it working something?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
If the player on the left scores, then you
Okay.
should send the ball to the right.
Right.
So
That's quite greedy.
what is the text? Your canvas is not scaling properly.
No, it's like
What is reading? The ball.
yeah, the ball is still greedy.
Do you turn back into play ball on the ball?
Wait, it's not right. How come the
It should be like what is reading?
no wait. Why is player one always scoring instead of player
It's because your scores will not set that because
Oh.
now you change the
two? Right.
so that's wrong. Right one you change that.
Oh, okay.
Scoring player ID begin.
Right. Thank you. Wait, so what? Then wait, was the problem of the greedy thing
What greedy?
the ball?
Ball.
Yeah. I remember I just followed your steps for that.
Let's say the work look greedy on the side.
I mean, it's on the whole side. It's pretty greedy.
Greedy as it doesn't look like a ball or what?
It's very pixelated.
It's fine, it's not. It's normal. Looking pixelated is normal. It's just the Unity sprite. Okay, so if there's no other question, so for next week we will go through how to do a very simple sort of like a room lobby system, leveraging Unity's what do we call that? Unity's gaming service. So it's just going to be a very simple lobby system that you can join and you can play. That you can join and you can try to exit. So we're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that tomorrow. It's probably not tomorrow. We're gonna work on that for the next session, which is next week. There should be quite a bit of code to write. So I think next week's session is gonna be a bit longer than today. So yeah, if there's no other questions, I think we can end this session here today, and I hope to see you guys next week. The code I will upload to GitHub. I'll upload to GitHub probably after today, alongside recording, so you'll be able to look it up. So once again, thank you for coming, and I will see you guys next week.